time for KTSM 9 Overtime, the Borderlands' only high school basketball wrap-up show. Your hosts, Andy Morgan, Colin Deaver, and Sam Guzman. KTSM 9 Overtime, sponsored by Expert HVAC and Refrigeration, starts right now.
Well, we lost a legend today. Andress boys basketball head coach Jim Forbes, who coached the Eagles as well as Riverside to Final Four appearances, played at Bel Air, played and coached at UTEP, even went on to play on the 1972 Olympic team for the United States, died on Friday morning from complications stemming from COVID-19. He was 69 years old. Certainly not the news anyone wanted to wake up to this morning, especially his team there at Andress, who remarkably played their game against Irvin tonight. We're going to have more on that in just a minute, but first we're going to go out live to Andress High School. That's where we find 9 Overtimes. Colin Deaver. Colin, we lost a coaching legend, but for anyone who knew Jim Forbes well, he was more than just a basketball coach.
Well, Andy, and you saw that just completely on display here at Andress High School. This is what I love about the El Paso community. They show up in times of need for anyone, wherever it is across the city, and Jim Forbes was important to anyone in El Paso. He could go anywhere in the Northeast. People loved him. He could go to the west side, the east side, the south side, anywhere in town. Jim Forbes was beloved. You saw that on display here tonight at Andress High School. Like you said, we will get to the game in just a moment, but before we do that, here's a look at the life and legacy of one of the most important people in El Paso sports history.
Basketball took Jim Forbes all over the world, but it's not an accident that the game that he loved helped him make the biggest impact in the city he called home.
Coach would give you the sweater off his back to make sure you were warm. He saved my life.
Forbes died Friday at the age of 69 due to complications with COVID-19. He leaves behind his wife, Mary Jane, 1 daughter, 4 grandkids, and a great-grandchild, plus generations of El Pasoans impacted by one of the greatest coaches in the city's history.
You can't replace anybody like that. He's done too much. He's given too much. He's sacrificed so much.
He won over 700 games as a head coach at both Riverside and Andress from 1984 to 2021, leading the Rangers and Eagles to the state Final Four in 1995 and 2015, respectively. He did it with the humility that he became famous for.
To have a guy that's a legend in minor history and spend an hour with a man and he never talked about himself speaks volumes about who he is.
Forbes was just as famous as a player as he was as a coach. An All-American at Bel Air, he stayed home and played at UTEP for Don Haskins, and his jersey hangs in the rafters at both places. But Forbes always said the highlight of his athletic career was playing in the 1972 Olympics for the infamous USA team that refused to accept the silver medal after a controversial loss to the Soviet Union in the gold medal match.
He wanted the team's success to be far greater than his own individual success. And I think because of that, a lot of success came his way because of the role that he played.
Forbes was a teacher of the game of basketball and perhaps more importantly, of the game of life.
When you look at it as a player perspective, he was probably a father figure to a lot of us in the community. There's a lot of guys that played for him that are successful in life and are doing great things, and have done a great job in just following the guidance that we got from him.
For over 50 years in El Paso, no one has been a bigger staple than Jim Forbes. He has a rightful place on the city's Mount Rushmore, and his legacy will live on forever.
Thank you for everything you've done for me and for this team. And I love him so much, and I couldn't have asked for a better coach and for a better man. Keep impacting lives and keep helping kids, man, because that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about for me, and that's what it's all about for Coach, man. He's helped so many kids outside the court. And you don't appreciate it enough until someone's gone.
Andy, I want to leave you with a story that just really exemplifies everything that Coach Forbes is. The first time I met him, November 20th, 2018, I'd never been to an Andress Eagles game, never met Coach Forbes. I walked into the gym to introduce myself to him. It was an Andress-Jefferson game. He looks at me and says, "What are you doing here? The best game of the night is over at Burgess. The Andress girls are playing the Mustangs." Just to give you an idea of how much he cares about other people, and just was humble enough to tell me, "Hey, get out of my gym, go to the better game. You can come watch us in a little bit." Andy.
Colin, thank you. As we mentioned, the Andress boys, who have been without Forbes for the last month, played their game as scheduled tonight against Irvin because it's what Coach Forbes would have wanted. Just remarkable. And for that reason, of course, it's our 9 Overtime game of the week. Let's roll some highlights here. The Eagles honoring Coach Forbes before tonight's game. He was in his usual spot for this one. First chair. Wife sitting behind him on the bench tonight. Andress players wearing special shirts with Coach Forbes on the front, the words "Rest in Peace, Legend" on the back. Not an empty seat there at Andress High School for tonight's game against the Rockets, a Northeast rivalry there. And then there was this, the starting lineups were announced. Really just an emotional night overall there at Andress. And the Eagles somehow able to power through and actually play some basketball tonight. This is Jeremiah Porta with 2 in transition. Then it's Kayvon Morgan going to clean up the mess here with the putback. Give him 2. Cameron Smith, he would hit a triple as Andress rolls tonight. 53-21 is your final. How about that? The Eagles with a huge win and dedicating this win to their head coach, Coach Forbes. An emotional win for Andress. 9 overtimes. Sam Guzman is live at Andress with this week's Coaches Spotlights. Hey there, Sam.
Hey, Andy. Well, earlier today, Andress interim head coach Eugene Costello told us that today was just meant more than just basketball, and that's exactly what we saw today. A ton of people coming into the gym to support the Eagles tonight. The tribute for Coach Forbes began before the boys' game, and it was a really quiet gym. Flowers, as you said, were left on Forbes' empty seat. We also saw a 50-second moment of silence, and during the moment of silence, looking around, you could just see a lot of emotion and tears coming from fans in the stands to the officials and especially the players. It just shows the type of impact Forbes had on the community. The atmosphere in the gym tonight was one that the Eagles will remember forever.
Well, it was great. Everybody from the community in the Northeast who came out and represented for Coach. And hopefully we can continue that same attendance the whole way the rest of the season.
I was holding back my tears. It was just sad to do that because you would never think you would have to do that to your coach. It was emotional at first, but we had to pull it out and win it for him and do everything he taught us to do in order for us to win this game.
Even during the game, we saw tributes to Forbes. Irvin taking a 10-second backcourt violation to start the game. And then later on, we'd see one of the seniors on this team, Cameron Smith, pointing to the sky after his first bucket of the game. It was a pretty emotional night here at Andress High School, and one that you just saw the community of El Paso rally all together for. Back to you, Andy.
Sam, thank you. Moments like this, no doubt, heartbreaking. Jim Forbes was a pillar not only within the basketball community here in El Paso, he was an influential figure to all El Pasoans. And the community showing up and showing out like they did tonight at Andress, and for the Eagles to get a win like they did for Coach Forbes, just goes to show you the power of sports. It's deep. When we return, we'll have highlights from games across the city. You're watching 9 Overtime.